The Psychology of Sales. Hi, everybody. My name is Jolly. I am not Hollywood actor John C. Reilly. I know some of you might have thought that Gino's sprung to get an Academy Award-nominated actor to host this training video, but they did not. I am a server. I've been a server with Gino since 2008. I work in the River North location in beautiful Chicago, and I have conversations about John C. Reilly at least 5 times every shift, and it's nice because I like to talk about movies, and it's always interesting what movies the customer knows this guy from. When I'm not at Gino's, I'm at home taking care of my kids. Aren't they cute? Or I am in my band, which, look, aren't I cute? So, the next part after you've introduced yourself, or the reason you want to introduce yourself, I should say, is to appear friendlier than you actually might be. If you come in feeling like a bitter shell of yourself, you don't want your tables to realize that. So simply by introducing yourself, you appear friendlier, and people like friendly people, I'm told. The other reason you'd like to do these introductions is, on average, it will increase your tip by $2, which those $2 add up, let me tell you. Additionally, you want to welcome the guests to Gino's East. You want to make your customers feel like a guest in your home rather than a customer in a business. Often guests are coming to us as part of a vacation or a trip for a special occasion. With Gino's, it's more than a meal, it's an experience. And as the server, you're the face of that experience, the ruggedly handsome face of that experience. So, you want to establish a connection with your tables. There are ways that you can do this subconsciously, ways like bending down as you talk to the table, or even just subtly touching the table once you come to it. Additionally, you always want to make eye contact with your guests as you're speaking with them. Those would be subconscious ways you can establish a connection. Consciously, you can look for visual cues to make conversation with your table. This could be things like shopping bags. I see you took out a mortgage at American Girl doll. This sort of thing. If they've got kids at the table, I know someone who has a kid. Or maybe they're wearing sports apparel. Go Bears. These are all ways that you can start a conversation with your table simply by reading their visual cues. You want to personalize yourself so you're not just the server, you're a person. That'll help your tips. While you're doing this, you'll want to read your guests. Some guests will want to make conversation, other guests not so much. So it's important to know what kind of guest you have. When it comes to the psychology of sales, what we're going to be talking about is suggestive selling. The best way to do suggestive selling is by the use of descriptive words. They've found that sales will increase 27% with a good description. Now you could use words like fresh, or crisp, or exclusive, home style, traditional, tender, handcrafted, world famous. These are all great examples of how you can talk about your menu items. They found that the more you talk about it, the better value it seems as though you're giving to the customer. That's what a menu consultant said, and I know what you're all thinking. Yes, menu consultant is a real job. So as you're guiding the guest through the menu, don't be afraid to point at specific menu items as you are suggesting them. They found that 1/3 of people order the first item that draws their attention, so it's not bad to draw their attention by pointing. Now, on average, a person looks at a menu for only 109 seconds. That's not a lot of time, and your job as a server is to help them with those 109 seconds of looking at a menu. One way that you can use suggestive selling is by setting up a decoy. Now, what a decoy is suggesting menu items that are both at the high end of the price spectrum and then in the lower medium, because suddenly the low or medium priced objects become a much better value relatively when you're comparing it to an expensive item. For example, a $34 of wine sounds like a deal when you're pairing it alongside a $60 bottle of wine. When you're making these suggestions, you want to be confident. Now, the best way to be confident is to know your menu. If you don't know your menu, if you have a question, you want to partner with either the manager, the bartender, the kitchen manager, or even other servers. That way you've got all the information you need to properly answer your guest's question. You don't want to lie to the guests. Now, as you're upselling to the perfect check, you might ask yourself, what is the perfect check? The perfect check will have a drink, an appetizer, an entree, and dessert. And I'm going to tell you how to sell each one of those items. Now, you'll ask yourself, why is building the perfect check good for me, the restaurant, and most importantly, the guest? It's good for you because ideally, you will be making more money off bigger checks. Money is good. Additionally, you'll get management recognition. Look at how happy he is that you just suggestively sold to the perfect check. Now, as far as the restaurant, increased checks mean increased revenue for the restaurant, which is good for them. And the most overlooked aspect of this is, why is this good for the guest? The reason this is good for the guest to have the perfect check is they get to try something from every part of our menu. They get to try a drink, an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert, and they get the complete Gino's East experience. So, part one, you're going to start with the drink, okay? Before you suggestively sell a drink, you'll want to partner with your manager or bartender or brewmaster to serve what it is that needs to be sold. These could be items that are discontinued, items that we have a surplus on, but whatever they tell you to suggest, you're going to be sure to communicate these specials to the guests. They can't order a special if they don't know it exists. This could be a discounted item or even a brand new item that's on the menu that we're highlighting. One thing that's nice about alcoholic drinks is, on average, the profit margin is 200 to 500% on these items, which is very nice for the restaurant. What's nice for you is people tend to eat more when they're drinking, so it'll be easier to sell these items to these people. It's true. People don't tend to pay as much attention to the price of drinks as compared to other menu items, according to Kit Yarrow, consumer psychology at Golden State University. This is another great way to build your check. One thing with our restaurant, we have a lot of craft beers. One way that it's very nice to suggestively sell drinks to a table that might not be familiar with these craft beers is know what the more common or domestic equivalents of your craft beer selection might be. Now, part two, we're going to move on to the entree. Now, you might be saying to yourself, an appetizer should come before the entree. However, I will say, don't sell the appetizer yet. Start with the entree. Most people come to Gino's East, they're here for the pizza, and they're worried that an appetizer is just going to take up precious belly real estate. So start with the entree. We'll get back to the appetizer in just a moment, and it'll be much easier to get a yes to an appetizer then than if you don't get a no to the appetizer right now. So when you're suggesting the entree, you want to be able to describe the pizza, describe Chicago-style pizza and what sets that apart from other traditional pizzas. Number one would be the layering. You can say we start with our famous, world-famous golden crust, topped with gooey mozzarella cheese, fresh toppings, and our homemade pizza sauce. That's a nice way to explain it to people who might not be familiar with Chicago-style pizza. Additionally, when you're suggesting this, you want to suggest an appropriate size for the party that's at the table. Some folks want leftovers, some folks don't. So it doesn't do you any good to sell someone pizza if they're going to be angry that they're throwing it out at the end of the meal. When you're making these suggestions, I like to suggest two popular items. For example, if you're doing pizza, I would say the Meaty Legend or Supreme, as well as a personal favorite, which is, for me, the Jalapeno Blue, because bacon on anything is better. You also want to explain the baking time on these pizzas. There's two reasons for that. One, if the guest doesn't have the time to wait for the pizza to bake, you'll want to have other suggestions ready to go, such as thin crust pizza, sandwiches, pastas, salads, something that would have a quicker preparation time so they can get in and out. You don't want them to commit to a deep dish pizza and then 20 minutes into the bake time be furious at you that it's not ready yet. Additionally, once you've sold the 45 to 60 minute bake time, Now it is time to bring up an appetizer. Once they know that they're going to be waiting, the appetizer sounds a whole lot more appealing right now. So as you are selling the appetizer, again, I like to suggest two popular items like mozzarella sticks or chicken wings, as well as personal favorites, my personal being the deep dish nachos with brisket. It's delightful. And again, like the entree, you want to suggest an appropriate size. This order of spinach sticks will probably not feed a party of 10, going out on a limb there. If you've got someone who's concerned that an appetizer might make them too full, it's always great to suggest a lighter appetizer like splitting a salad. While the guest is deciding on their appetizer, it's a great time to suggest that you get the pizza baking. One, this will make them feel as though you're doing them a service, but for you as a server, you're not wasting time standing there at the table, so you can go ahead and get that pizza going. Now, the fourth and final part is the dessert. Now, at Gino's, dessert can be the hardest thing to sell because our pizza is so filling. So what I would suggest is to sell it early. You don't want to wait until the customer has already had an appetizer and eaten a deep dish pizza to then bring up dessert. The best time to sell it is once you've taken the pizza order, once you've taken the appetizer order, but before they have eaten anything, say, be sure to save some room for dessert. We've got a deep dish brownie sundae, or we've got our homemade cannolis. It is a great time at that time to sell that dessert. The two easiest groups of people to sell dessert to: families with kids and couples on dates. If you mention dessert in front of kids, they will do all the suggestive selling you need to their parents to make sure there is dessert on the table at the end of the meal. As far as couples on dates, it's a great way to prolong a nice experience by enjoying something sweet together. Aww, they're in love. So, now we're going to move on to completing the guest's experience. When you're completing the guest's experience, these are other things you can do to give the guest a better experience in the restaurant. Number one, you'll want to repeat the order. Everything that they order from you, you should parrot back to them. There's two reasons for this. One is it will ensure accuracy when you're placing the order, not only for you, but also in the guest's mind that you are concerned with their menu selections being ordered accurately. Two, repetition subconsciously makes people feel like you are more like them, and people like themselves, so hopefully they will like you and tip you better at the end of this. Additionally, anytime you serve anything to a customer, you'll want to ask the question, is there anything else I can bring for you? You will be saying this several times throughout the night. This creates non-task-oriented visits to the table. It's not just when you're there taking the order or there when you're serving the pizza. It's other trips to the table that you'd be making. For example, after you've served anything, you want to check back within 2 minutes to ensure that they're happy with what they ordered. If there is any sort of a problem and you catch it within 2 minutes, a guest is more likely to allow you to fix the problem as opposed to just deal with it. Additionally, you'll want to anticipate the guest's needs. This could be something like, if you see them drop silverware, bring them clean silverware. If their drinks get below halfway, bring them a refill. Or if you serve them something like buffalo wings, bringing extra napkins before they ask for them. That's the anticipation. Once you notice that the guest is nearing the completion of their meal, you'll want to be check ready. This means printing out their check and having it on you. That way the guest doesn't have to wait for the check. One thing you should do while you're being check ready is handwrite thank you and your name on the top of the check. They've found that this will increase tips on average 30%, which is nice. This is your last opportunity by presenting this check generally to make an impression on the guest before they're going to tip you. So use that last opportunity wisely to make a good final impression. And last but certainly not least, you'll want to thank the guest for coming to Gino's and invite them back soon. There are a lot of restaurants out there, and we want to make sure that they know we're happy they came to Gino's East. Thanks a lot.